Hi everybody, Matt Houston here, and today I am talking about something I am very excited about, which is the revision of the Artificer class for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Let's take a look at it. So Wizards of the Coast put out a Unearthed Arcana Artificer revision this year, 2019, and it looks phenomenal. And we're just going to go through it real quick and give my opinions on it, what I think is good, what I don't think is great about it, and kind of go from there. So the Unearthed Arcana Artificer. As always, this is playtest material. So playtest material is, well, just this is the character class is presented as playtesting and to spark your imagination. The game mechanics are in draft form, usable for your campaigns, but not refined for full development. This class is not officially part of the game for these reasons, it is not legal in D&D Adventure League events. Now, I personally am not a fan of Adventure League. It's not my cup of tea. That's your thing. Go for it. Unfortunately, you won't be able to play Artificers yet, but who knows? If this is looking as good as it is, then we may be able to do so very, very soon. So let's take a little look here. So masters of unlocking magic in everyday objects, artificers are supreme inventors. They see magic as complex systems waiting to be coded and controlled. Artificers use tools to channel arcane power, crafting temporary and permanent magical objects. To cast spells, an artificer could use alchemist supplies to create a potent elixir. Choreographer, is that how you spell calligrapher? Calligrapher? Yeah, that's how you spell calligrapher. My goodness, dyslexia been doing its work on me. Calligraphers. Apparently, I can't say calligrapher. Calligraphers supplies to inscribe a sigil of power on an ally's armor, or tinker's tools to craft temporary charm. The magic of the artificers is tied to their tools and their talents. So, when role playing, of course, this means that you're going to be using unusual objects compared to most other casters. Of course, your holy and divine magics will typically be of the holy symbol, or in the case of the druids, a piece of wood from a sacred grove, as an example. Whereas wizards and sorcerers may use crystals or wands. Bards use instruments, of course, but typically you wouldn't expect to see someone pulling out an elixir, popping the cork off and blowing on, and then the cloud just becomes a big cloud kill spell. That'd be pretty interesting. Arcane sciences. Science. In the world of Eberron, arcane magic has been harnessed as a form of science and deployed throughout society. Artificers? Artificers. I think it's artificers, but artificers reflect this development. Their knowledge of magical devices and their ability to infuse mundane items with magical energy allow the grand magical projects of Eberron to continue running. During the last war, the artificers were marshaled on a massive scale. Many lives were saved because of the inventions of brave artificers, but also countless lives were lost because of the mass destruction the artificers created and unleashed. So, of course, they are inventors. Seekers of new lore. Nothing excites an artificer quite like uncovering a new metal or discovering a source of elemental energy. In artificer circles, new inventions and strange discoveries create the most excitement. Artificers who wish to make their mark must find something fresh rather than uncovering something in someone else's work. This drive for novelty pushes artificers to become adventurers. Eberron's main travel routes in populated regions have long since been explored. Thus, artificers take to the edge of civilization in hopes of making the next great discovery in arcane research. So, simply put, artificers are inventors that are, well, kind of like Indiana Jones, really. You're looking to find the next big thing. I imagine Tabaxis actually would make pretty interesting artificers, now that I think about it. They usually have a thirst for knowledge and lost history. Interesting. Creating an artificer. When creating an artificer, think about your character's background and drive for adventure. Does the character have a rival? What in this character's relationship with the artisan or artificer who taught the basics of their craft? Talk to your DM about the role played by artificers in the campaign and what sort of organizations and NPCs you might have ties to. This is actually pretty important. Artificers are more of a society-based class as opposed to something like a sorcerer who can be spontaneously created, has no inherent necessity of background. Artificers play a lot like wizards, I would imagine, as most of the things are based on teaching. So the wizards typically require you to go to school of some kind, or read a very large stack of books, or just be naturally talented in that way. Typically, though, there are always exceptions. Most artificers, as suggested, are also the same way, where they know other artificers, they know other persons that they learn things from. So quick build, you can make an artificer quickly by following these suggestions. First, put your highest score in intelligence. Oh, thank you, another intelligence score-based character. Followed by constitution or dexterity. Second, choose the guild artisan background. Alright, so let's get into the class features. So hit points, you get a D8 hit die. Pretty, I would say it's pretty appropriate. I don't think they would receive anything different. They're not natural. I would not imagine them to be full frail casters like the wizard. Otherwise, you would just play a wizard. And I also wouldn't expect them to be as potent as fighters. So I think a D8 is very appropriate here. Standard stuff for the hit points. Light, medium armors, and shields. I also like this. A medium armored. I think it makes sense. They have historically been pretty well reliant on gear, which has always been good in my opinion. They are builders of gear, so they're reliant on gear, as well as all simple weapons, hand crossbows and heavy crossbows. I like this. It's kind of like a harken back to the fact that you used to have in older editions like 3.5. You would just have like a heavy crossbow, and that's the only weapon you would ever use because you would just enchant it. Also, you get some tinkering. You also get some tools here. So you get thieves tools and tinker tools. I think those are both very important. Thieves tools I think is a little strange here, but they were able to use trap finding in historically, so that's a bit of a harken back to that. Tinker's tools, I like this. I think that's pretty standard, as well as one type of Tinker's tools of your choice. This is the thing where this is fantastic, where you get to kind of specialize yourself in a certain way. So if you want to be a expert in potions, you can take the alchemist supplies. If you want to be an expert in scrolls, you can take calligraphy. You want to be or you can even just do books with calligraphy as well. You want to be a smith of some kind. You want to build armors. You could take blacksmithing tools. I really like the variety of options that you get with this, as long as you also get the tinker tools, so you always have a default that you get to fall back on. Typically, I would think of Tinker's tools as kind of like craft wondrous items, where it's just kind of like a general purpose thing. Whereas you get into specifics, you can get a lot more interesting with it. So saving throws, constitution and intelligence. This is fantastic. This makes them incredible concentration casters, something that the sorcerer had exclusively before. This is a really good constitution. Saving throws are going to be really important, I think, for this class. So having the saving throws get stronger and stronger as your proficiency bonus goes up, really, really good. Intelligence is a much lesser used one, but makes a lot of sense. Being able to discern whether or not things are real or magic, I think, is a really good interpretation of the Artificer. Wisdom does not seem to fall in that kind of capacity, and charisma just doesn't make sense. Choose 2 skills. So you're not a high skill character, which again I agree with. You're a high tools character. So tools and skills tend to get mixed in together. You don't have a lot of skills, but you have a lot of tool proficiency. So you're going to be able to do things with a lot of objects, but you're not going to have a lot of different skills beyond that. So choosing 2 from Arcana, History, Investigation, Medicine, Nature, Perception, and Sleight of Hand. Sleight of Hand feels kind of strange to me, but of course you're going to have those dexterous hands to be able to work with those little inner workings, so I guess I can understand it. All the knowledge skills are here except religion, and I think that's appropriate. Religion would be the last thing that you would concern yourself with. I think in terms of knowledges, every other knowledge is there, or rather every other intelligent-based skill is there, such as investigation. I think investigation is very, very good to add. Moving on, equipment. So you start with the following equipment. You gain any 2 simple weapons, a light crossbow and 20 bolts, a studded leather armor or scale mail. I personally like the scale mail here. I'm more of a medium armor kind of guy myself, especially with an artificer-like character. Thieves tools and a dungeoneer's pack. The Dungeoneers pack, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm more of an Explorers pack kind of guy, but with the idea that they are constantly delving into dungeons and trying to find objects and old things and making new discoveries, Dungeoneers pack absolutely makes sense. Of course, you can forego your equipment and gain the items as well as the items offered in your background, and you can, of course, as always, start with a D4, a sum of D4, in this case 5, D4 times 10 to buy equipment. Additional rules, or rather optional rules, and this is actually very good for me as well in my campaign. Firearm proficiencies. The creation and operation of gunpowder weapons has been discovered in various corners of the D&D multiverse. If your Dungeon Master uses the rules on firearms found in the Dungeon Master's Guide, the page 267, and your Artificer has been exposed to the operations of such weapons, your Artificer is proficient with them. So let's just scroll down here to the table, and we can see off the hop that they are they have to 5th level spell casting, so that we know that they are a half level caster, which is, I think, a lot more appropriate than what it was before, which was a 3rd caster. So infused items, we'll get into that in a little bit later. Infusions known, also tied to infused items, but does this table, this scaling look interestingly familiar to anyone? Yes, Warlock invocations. They went the invocation route with the Artificer, which I was very happy about. I remember having a couple of different discussions, and this suggestion came up pretty often of them finding a way of utilizing invocations or an invocation-like ability set towards the Artificer, and it looks like they've taken that approach. Lots of different things in here. So start magical tinkering. At 1st level, you learn how to investigate a spark of magic in an object that would otherwise be mundane. To use this ability, you must have thieves' tools, tinker tools, or any other artisan tools in hand. When you touch a tiny non-magical object, as an action, you give it one of the following magical properties of your choice. The object sheds bright light in 5-foot rays and dim light in additional 5 feet. Whenever tapped by a creature, the object emits a recorded message that can be heard up to 10 feet away. You utter the message when you bestow this property upon the object, and the recording is no longer than 6 seconds. This is pretty interesting. It's a good way to leave messages for someone. The object continuously emits your choice of an odor or nonverbal sound, wind, waves, chirping, or the like. A static visual effect appears on one of the object's surfaces. This effect can be a picture, up to 25 words of text, lines and shapes, or a mixture of these elements as you like. The chosen properties last indefinitely. As an action, you can touch the object and end the property early. You can give the magic the magic of this feature to multiple objects. Touching one object each time uses the feature, and a single object can bear only one of the properties at a time. Maximum number of objects that can be affected with this feature is 1 time, equal to the number of your intelligence modifier. Minimum of 1. If you try to exceed your maximum, the oldest property immediately ends and the new one applies. Spellcasting. Okay, so the thing that is much more interesting this time around to me than it was last time. You have studied the workings of magic and how to channel it through objects, how to awaken it within them. As a result, you have gained a limited ability to cast spells. To observers, you don't appear to be casting spells in a conventional way. You look as if you're producing wonders through various items. Again, going back to the utilizing of the tools as your arcane foci. You produce your Artificer spells effects through your tools. You must have a spellcasting focus, specifically thieves' tools or some kind of artisan tools, in hand when you cast any spell with the spell casting feature. Any Artificer spell, you need to have a tool in hand. You must be proficient with the tools that you use in this way. See Chapter 5 of the equipment on the player's handbook. After you gain the infuse item feature at 2nd level, you can also use any item bearing one of your infusions as a spell casting focus. It means if you infuse an item, which we'll get into in a little bit, means that you want to infuse your sword. Okay, your item is now infused. It is now a spell casting focus. You infused your armor. It is now a spell casting focus. So there's a lot of ways that you can set yourself up to be in a really good position. This also means that with Tinker Tools, if you find an errant wrench somewhere in a workshop and you don't have anything, hey, you now have a spell casting focus. Cantrips. At first level, you know 2 cantrips of your choice from the Artificer spell list below. We'll get into that at the end. At higher levels, you learn additional Artificer's cantrips of your choice shown in the Artificer table. When you gain a level in this class, you can replace one of the Artificer's cantrips you know with another cantrip on the Artificer's spell list. This is huge. Being able to flex in cantrips that have been working really, really well, or would have been working really well, but you haven't had access to, and then being able to swap those in for cantrips that have just not been serving your purposes is a fantastic ability. Being able to swap out your cantrips is really good. Like other spellcasters are able to do this. This lets you pick spells that will scale to what you're doing much better as the game progresses. Very, very nice. Preparing and casting spells. The Artificer table shows how many spell slots you can have to cast your Artificer spells. To cast one of your Artificer spells at first level or higher, you must expend a slot. Standard stuff. Long, you regain all expended spell slots on when you finish a long rest. Again, standard stuff. You prepare the spell lists that are available to cast, choosing from the Artificer spell list. When you do so, choose a number of Artificer spells equal to your intelligence modifier plus half your Artificer level, rounded down, minimum of 1 spell. The spells must be of a level of which you are able to cast. Example, if you are 5th level Artificer, you have 4 first levels. You have 4 first level and 2 second level spell slots. With an intelligence of 14, your lists you can prepare include spells of first and second level in any combination. You prepare the first level spell Cure Wounds. You can cast it using first and second level spell slots. Casting a spell does not remove it from your list of prepared spells. Also very nice. You can change your list of prepared spells when you finish a long rest. Preparing a new list of Artificer requires time spent of tinkering with your spell casting focuses, at least 1 minute per spell level for each spell on your list. You want to swap all your spells? You gotta spend a bit of time. It takes a wizard about an hour to prepare all his spells most of the time. It's not a big deal for adventurers to spend an hour of their day after a long rest to get their preparations going. Spellcasting ability, as typical, you have a intelligence, or as expected, you have an intelligence-based spellcasting modifier, adding your 8 plus your proficiency and your intelligence modifier, and of course your proficiency plus and your intelligence modifier for the spell attack and spell DCs as appropriate. You are also a ritual caster. You can cast an Artificer spell as a ritual if that spell has a ritual tag and you have the spell prepared. This is not a way for you to get around the prepared spells, unfortunately, unlike the wizard who can do this. But being able to not having to sack your spells for this is very, very nice. Artificer spell list. Here we go. Here's the list of spells you consult when you learn Artificer spells. So list of organized by spell level, not character level. If a spell can be cast as a ritual, the ritual tag appears in the spell's name. Magic of the Artificer. As an Artificer, you use tools when you cast your spells. When describing your spell casting, think about how your tools to perform the spell effects. If you cast Cure Wounds using alchemist supplies, you could be quickly producing a salve. If you cast it using Tinker's tools, you might have a miniature mechanical spider that binds wounds. When you cast Poison Spray, you could fling a foul chemical and use a wand that spits venom. Effects of the spells are the same as a spellcaster for any other class, but your method of spellcasting is special. Again, this goes back to the roleplay aspects of this. Same principle applies when you prepare your spells. In Artificer, you don't study a spell book or pray to prepare spells. Instead, you work with your tools and create specialized items you'll use to produce the effects. If you replace Cure Wounds with a Shocking Grasp, you might break down the device that you use to heal and create an offensive item in its place. Perhaps a gauntlet that lets you channel surges of energy. Such details don't limit you in any way or provide you with any benefit. You don't have to justify how you're using the tools to cast a spell, but describing your spellcasting is creativity and is a fun way to distinguish yourself from other spellcasters. And this is the thing that is super, super great about the Artificer is you can, like as it's suggested, you want to be have a Shocking Grasp. Gauntlet. Fantastic, fun, amazing ways to just produce all kinds of wacky, fun ideas. All right, getting into the thing that makes this class, Infuse Item. At 2nd level, so you get it pretty much right away, you gain the ability to imbue mundane items with certain magical infusions. The magical items you create with this feature are effectively prototypes of a permanent item. Infusions known. When you gain this feature, pick 3 Artificer infusions to learn, choosing from the Artificer infusions sec at the end of the class's description. You learn additional fusions of your choice when you reach certain levels in this class, as shown in the Fusions Known column of the Artificer table. When you gain a level in this class, you can replace one of the infusions known you learn with a new one. Very nice. Infusing an item. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can touch a non-magical object and imbue it with one of your Artificer infusions, turning it into a magic item. An infusion works only on certain kinds of objects as specified by the infusion's description. If the item requires attunement, you can attune yourself to it in the instant you finish the item, or you can forego the attunement so that someone else can attune to the item. If you decide to attune the item later, you must do so using the normal process for attunement. Your infusions remain in an item indefinitely, but when you die, the infusion vanishes after a number of days have passed equal to the intelligence modifier, minimum of 1 day. The infusion also vanishes if you give up your knowledge of the infusion for another one. You can fuse more than one non-magical object at the end of a long rest. The maximum number of objects appears in the infusion items column of the Artificer's table. You must touch each of the objects, and each of your infusions can be in only one object at a time. If you try to exceed the maximum number of infusions, the oldest infusion immediately ends, and then the new infusion applies. This can be good. This can be handy. It's very specific circumstances. Okay, Artificial Specialist. You can choose a type of specialist. You are Alchemist or Artillerist, which is again in this document, each of which is detailed at the end of the class descriptions. Your choice grants you features at 3rd, 6th, and 14th level. Starting at 3rd level, your proficiency bonus is double for any ability checks you make using your proficiency with a tool. So you gain expertise in tools. Very, very handy. Quite nice, actually. It means that Thieves' Tools, you have expertise, meaning you're very good at disabling locks and opening doors. Tinker Tools, you're very good at making items. And, of course, anything beyond that. Ability score improvements, your standard 4, 8, 12, 16, 19. You can gain ability score of 2 or 2 in 1. And, of course, as always, you can swap this out for a feat. As per usual, also, you cannot go above 20 using this feature. All right, Arcane Armament. Starting at 5th level, you can attack twice rather than once. However, whenever you take the attack action on your turn. But one of the attacks must be made with a magic weapon, the magic of which you use to propel the attack. So, this means that a mundane sword, you still only get 1 attack. Mundane crossbow, you still get 1 attack. Enchanted bow, enchanted sword, it is a magical force that you use to propel the additional attacks. This is entirely up to interpretation. Sword, +1 sword, you can use the magic as a means of increasing the momentum that you can swing it at. If it's any elemental base, you can attack and then just have the blast of energy come out of it doing additional damage as well. Right? Cantrip for the job. This right here puts your spell casting ability to swap cantrips at level on steroids. At 10th level, you gain the ability to make sure you have the right magical tool for a job whenever you finish a short or long rest. A short or long rest, guys. This is amazing. You can replace one Artificer cantrip that you know with another one from the same spell list. This is huge. You being able to swap cantrips in between battles, in the same dungeon, in the same day is amazing. Being able to swap it day to day is also very nice, but being able to swap it pretty much whenever you want, whenever you have some time to, is incredible. This makes the Artificer very, very good at what it used to do, which is I have an answer for anything. This drives that home. This is an amazing, amazing ability. Spell storing items. when you reach 18th level, you learn how to store a spell and object for repeated use. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can touch one simple or martial weapon or an item that you can use as a spellcasting focus and store a spell in it, choosing one first or second level spell. From the Artificer spell list that requires one action to cast. You don't need to have the spell prepared, which is also very nice. With that object in hand, a creature can take right? Very important here. A creature can take an action to produce the spell effects from it using your spellcasting ability modifier. This is crazy. A creature can take an action and produce this spell effect. This is amazing. So good. This means that you can put a spell into the sword that the fighter is using, and he can produce the spell. The spell stays in the object until it has been used a number of times equal to twice your intelligence modifier. This point, it's going to be 5. It's going to be +5, minimum of twice, or until you use this feature again. So 10 times your fighter can cast, let's see here, Arcane Weapon, if they have a +1 weapon that you gave them. They can cast Shield of Faith on themselves, Expeditious Retreat. They can cast False Life, or even further, you can cast, let's see, Enlarge Reduce, Invisibility, Lesser Restoration, Protection from Poison, See Invisibility. These are all great spells to have in anybody's pocket. Having a utility spell that you can access at any time, very strong. And of course, at 20th level, we have the good old, from the previous thing, Soul of the Artificer. Your understanding of magic items is unmatched, allowing you to mingle your soul with items linked to you. You can attune up to 6 magical items at once. In addition, you gain +1 bonus to all saving throws per magic item you are currently attuned to. It's 20th level, so you're not going to feel the use of this too much unless you play an epic level Clash of the Titans type game all for an extended period of time. But being able to get 6 magical items attuned to yourself, along with having a +6 bonus, basically your proficiency bonus applied to all your saves, and then getting the additional 6 to your constitution and your intelligence, you're gonna make any concentration check, and nothing's gonna fool you. Having a +12 to those, that's insane. But moving into Artificer specialists, we have 2 to go through here. We have the Alchemist. An Alchemist is an expert at combining exotic reagents to produce mystical effects. Among the Artificers, members of this subclass are the greatest healers, as well as the ones who are most adept at wielding dangerous chemicals. So, tools of the trade. By the time you adopt this specialty at 3rd level, you're deeply familiar with employing its tools. Proficiency. You gain proficiency with alchemist supplies and the herbalism kit, assuming you don't already have them. You also gain alchemist supplies and herbalism kit for free as a result of you tinkering you've done as you've prepared for this specialization. Picking up various herbs and different things here and there, or just taking a few things out of your food every once in a while, creates an herbalism kit. Crafting. You create magic. If you craft a magic item in the potion category, it takes you a quarter of the normal time, and it costs you half as much usual gold. This is amazing. Being able to craft potions at 50 gold pieces a week, typical. Being able to, and that taking you a whole week to make a potion of healing, it now takes you a quarter of a week, so 2 days and 25 gold pieces. That is amazing. Doing that with much larger items, a week to make a potion of water breathing, and it only costing you 100 gold. Again, really nice. Downtime things for Artificers is always fun, and this is always a good thing. Alchemist supplies. You always have certain spells prepared after you reach a particular level in this class, as shown in the Alchemist spell table. These spells count as Artificer spells for you, but they don't count against the number of Artificer spells you prepared. So, Domain spells, for all intensive purposes: Purify Food and Drink, Ray of Sickness, Melf's Acid Arrow, Web, Create Food and Water, Stinking Cloud, Blight, Death Ward, Cloud Kill, and Raise Dead. All very, very appropriate to the mad alchemical scientist that just throws potions at stuff all day. I love this image. I love that image so much. And very appropriate spells, very good support-oriented spells, potent healers, as they suggested, having the Purify Food and Drink, the Death Ward, the Create Food and Water, and the Raise Dead, all making beautiful sense of that. But again, Ray of Sickness, Melf's Acid Arrow, Stinking Cloud, Blight, and Cloud Kill, all making sense to dangerous, sickly concoctions as well. Very thematic, very well decided. Alchemical Homunculus. I miss these guys. These things were so much fun in older editions. At third level, you learn ancient methods for creating a special homunculus that is formed by alchemical substances. Whenever you finish a long rest, your alchemist supplies are with you, you can form this homunculus in an unoccupied space within 5 feet of you. If you already have a homunculus from this feature, the first one dies immediately. The homunculus is friendly to you and your companions and obeys your commands. See creature game statistics on alchemical homunculus stat block. You determine the homunculus appearance, which includes wings and bits of alchemical equipment. Some alchemists prefer mechanical-looking birds, where others prefer winged vials or miniature cauldrons. I'm just sticking with the gelatinous cube. I don't care. I'm just sticking with the gelatinous cube. In combat, the homunculus shares your initiative counter, but takes its turn immediately after yours. Its only actions to take on its turn is the dodge action, unless you take a bonus action on your turn to command it to take one of the following actions, such as dash, disengage, or the help action. If the mending spell is cast on it, it regains 2d6 hit points. If it dies within the last hour, you can use alchemical supplies as an action to revive it, provided you are within 5 feet of it, and you expend a spell slot of 1 level or higher. The homunculus returns to life with all of its hit points restored. It is a tiny construct. It has 13 natural armor, equal to 5 times your level. Hit points are equal to 5 times your level in this class, plus intelligence modifier, which, even at third level and you only have a +3, that's still 18 hit points. Not terrible. It has a 20-foot movement speed and a 30-foot flying speed. I don't know how my gelatinous cube would fly. It has some pretty mediocre stats. Perception and stealth. Not a big deal. Immunities to acid and poison. Condition immunity is immune to being charmed, exhausted, poisoned. Has dark vision of 60 feet and a passive perception of 10. And understands the languages you speak. Nothing particularly special. But Might of the Master. The following number increases by 1 when your proficiency increases by 1. The homunculus skill bonus and the bonuses to hit and damage of its acidic spittle. Its acid ability. The other way you could word this is it gains an additional bonus of equal to your proficiency bonus -2. That's another way you could read that. Actions requires your bonus action to give it this order. Ranged, so acid spittle. Ranged weapon attack, +4 to hit, range 30 feet. One target you can see, 1d6 plus 2 acid damage. A nice additional bit of damage. It's like another weapon attack. Just have it hanging out on your shoulder or right above your head. Nice little additional damage here and there. Alchemical salve. 3 per day. The homunculus produces a salve and touches one creature you designate. The target receives one of the following magic benefits of your choice. The target gains a flying speed of 10 feet for 10 minutes. It can be nice in a pinch. The target feels giddy and effective, gaining advantage on certain ability checks for the next hour. Target chooses the check before or after rolling. Magic runs out after the target has used it on a number of checks equal to your intelligence modifier. So starting at 3, getting up to 5, typically. So on certain ability checks, it doesn't specify what these certain ability checks are. I imagine it's on an ability check of your choice. And then the target chooses this before or after the roll. It's nice, but I find it kind of strange the way that it's worded. I assume this would be on any ability check. Ability checks do include tools and skills, as well as death saving throws. That is an ability check. Resilience. The target gains a number of temporary hit points equal to 2d6 plus your intelligence modifier. If you don't have another way of gaining temporary hit points, this is very, very good. Giving temporary hit points to certain characters in your party, even after their temporary hit points from other things have been gone. So this is still good even if you have Inspiring Leader in your party. Inspiring Leader is good on your entire party at the start of the day. Gaining resilience later, after a battle and someone has already lost their temporary hit points, being able to give them 2d6 plus your intelligence modifier afterwards, also very, very handy. Alchemical Mastery. At 6th level, your command of magical chemicals has become masterful, enhancing the healing and damage you create through them. When you cast a spell using your alchemist supplies as the spell casting focus, which would be pretty typical if you were taking this route, you gain bonus to one roll of the spell. The roll must restore hit points or be a damage roll that deals acid or poison damage. And the bonus is equal to your intelligence modifiers. Kind of like a limited version of the evocation spellcaster. Of the evocation wizard, my bad. In addition, you can cast lesser restoration without expending a spell slot, provided you use your alchemist supplies as the spellcasting focus. You can do so the number of times equal to your intelligence modifier. Also, very, very good. This lets you free up a slot in your spellcasting repertoire for this ability at any time. And again, by 6th level, you will probably have +4 to your modifier. Being able to do it 3 times a day, even if you don't, or just 4 times, is really, really good. It's very rare that you need lesser restoration many, many times in a single day. Also, that it says per day, not long rest recovery, meaning even when exhausted, you get this ability back. Chemical Savant. By 14th level, you have been exposed to so many chemicals and unlock their secrets that they pose little risk to you. You can use them to quickly and certain elements. You gain resistance to acid and poison damage and are now immune to the poison condition. Very, very handy. Makes a lot of sense. In addition, you gain the same thing as the lesser restoration, but you can also cast greater restoration in the same way. However, you can only use it once, and it's after you finish a long rest. Very, very nice. Very healing, supportive kind of Artificer. Very, very good. It's very reminiscent of just a potion crafter from 3.5, if that was the route that you went. It's just a specialization. I think it's very, very good. I like it a lot. Artillerist. The Artillerist specializes in using magic to create explosions and defensive positions, as well as magic-infused sidearms, especially wands, that can be used on the battlefield. Artillerists were valued by all armies of the last war, which is a little bit of Eberron lore, which is a nice little thing. Tools of the Trade. By this time you have adopted 3rd level, you are familiar with employing its tools. You gain proficiency with the Smither's tools and the Woodcarver's tools, of course, assuming that you don't already have them, and you gain them for free. In addition, you gain the ability to use rods, staves, and wands as spellcasting focuses for your Artificer. You also gain non-magical wooden wand for free, which you've carved in your spare time. Very, very, very nice. If you craft a magical item in the wand category, it takes you a quarter of the normal time and costs you half as much per usual. Wands of Magic Missile, thank you very much. In addition, you get some Artificer Specialist spells. You get Shield, Thunder Wave, Scorching Ray, Shatter, Fireball, Wind Wall, Ice Storm, Firewall, Cone of Cold, and Wall of Force. Look, seeing a bit of a theme here. This is reminiscent of the Blasterfeister, as they were called or Blasterfister. I can't remember which is the proper pronunciation, but the Blaster version of the Artificer, which was, of course, just making wands galore and blowing stuff up with Fireball. Very, very fun. fantastic way to deal a lot of damage. Very, very potent back in the day. But we're going a slightly different route by the looks of things. Arcane Turret. You learn how to create a magical turret. This is amazing. I love this. There was nothing like this in the game yet. With your smith's tools in hand, you can take an action to magically summon a medium turret in an unoccupied space on a horizontal surface within 5 feet of you. The turret is a magical object that occupies its space and has crab-like legs. It has an AC of 18 and a number of hit points equal to 5 times your Artificer level. It is immune to poison damage, psychic damage, and all conditions. If it is forced to make an ability check or saving throw, it treats its ability scores as 10, so plus 0. If the mending spell is cast on it, it gains 2d6 hit points. Just want to say 5 times your Artificer level starts at 15 hit points, but 18 armor class, pretty hard to damage. It disappears if it is reduced to 10 hit points or after 10 minutes. You can dismiss it early as an action. Very, very fun. We're going to get into what it can actually do in a second here. When you summon the turret, you decide which type it is, choosing from the options on the Arcane Turret table. Each one of your turns, you can use your bonus action to cause the turret to activate if you are within 60 feet of it. As part of the same action, was it bonus action? Bonus action, yeah. As part of the same action, you can direct the turret to walk or climb up to 15 feet in an occupied space. You can summon the turret once for free and must finish a long rest before doing so again. You can also summon the turret by expending a spell slot of first level or higher. If you summon a second turret, the first turret disappears. So, being able to do it once free and then again for a first level spell slot is pretty good. As an action, you can command your turret to detonate if you are within 60 feet of it. Doing so destroys the turret and forces each creature within 10 feet of it to make a dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC, taking 3d6 force damage on a failed save or half as much on a successful one. 3d6 force damage is pretty potent, especially at low levels. Not many things have resilience to force damage. So, turret types. So you have the Flamethrower, the Force Ballista, and I think it was Defender, and the Defender. The turret exhales in a adjacent 15-foot cone that you can designate. Each creature in that area must succeed on a dexterity saving throw of your spell DC or take 1d8 fire damage on a failed one or half as much. The fire ignites on any flammable objects in the area that aren't being worn and carried. Basically a poor man's burning hands. Very nice. You can do this every turn, of course, with a bonus action. A good means of taking care of a lot of small, weak characters and keeping things from getting overwhelming. Force Ballista. Make a ranged spell attack originating from the turret at one creature or object within 120 feet of it. On hit, the target takes 2d8 force damage. Puts Eldritch Blast to shame at this point right now. And if the target is a creature, it is pushed 5 feet away from the turret. Very, very good, defensible, long-range based turret. Very, very nice. Probably not my type of class personally, but very, very good. Defender. The turret emits a burst of positive energy that grants itself and each creature of your choice within 10 feet of it a number of temporary hit points to 1d8 plus your intelligence modifier. A good way to kind of bolster your party. It's a good way that if you are stuck inside a small area, this is particularly good. It means that you can bolster everyone, and then you can all move away, or you can move it into the enemies yourself, and then use an action and blow it up. Very, very good. It's a one and done kind of thing. It makes that explosion quite handy. Wand Prototype. By 6th level, you are now regularly experimented with channeling different types of magic through wands. Whenever you finish a long rest, your woodcarver's tools are with you. You can touch a non-magical wooden object, a wooden wand, and turn it into a magical item, rather. When you do so, you invest it with one Artificer cantrip of your choice, even one you don't know. That has a casting time of 1 action. As an action, you can cause the magic wand to produce the cantrip using your spellcasting ability modifier. Other creatures are unable to use the wand's magic. The wand loses this magic when you finish your next long rest, so it just resets every time you do a long rest. Having an additional 1 cantrip that is flexible every single morning, early compared to the other one. This is very, very handy. Any damage rolls you make with this cantrip in the wand gains a bonus equal to your intelligence modifier. So, Wand of Firebolt does a lot of damage now. When you reach 14th level of this class, you can invest the wand with 2 cantrips. Again, very nice. This is particularly good with your damage cantrips. This is nice, I think. Being able to have a damage cantrip in a wand is very, very handy. Of course, this means that you may want to keep one in your back pocket inherently, just so that if you lose the wand, you have that. Fortified position. Starting at 14th level, you are a master at conjuring a well-defended encampment. Emplacement. You and your allies have half cover while within 10 feet of your turret you create with an arcane turret, as a result of shimmering fields of magic protection that the turret emits. You also now summon a second turret for free and must finish a long rest before doing so again. If you summon the second turret while the first is still present, the first one doesn't disappear, and each turret can be a different type. If you summon a third turret, the first turret vanishes. Moreover, you can use one bonus action to activate both turrets. This is crazy. Double Force Ballistas, or Force Ballista and Defender. Flamethrower, Defender, double Flamethrower. Can be quite hot. Overall, very, very damaging, very blasting. This is the big thing right here. Having these spells in your back pocket at all times. Very, very good. I loved it. All right, Artificer Infusions. This is the fun stuff of the Artificer. Every Artificer gets this. Let's see what we got. Artificer Infusions. Artificers have invented numerous magical infusions that rapidly create magic items. To the untrained, artificers seem like wonder workers, accomplishing in hours what others needs weeks to accomplish. In description of each infusion tells you the type of item that can receive it. The description also tells you the resulting magic item requires attunement. Some infusions, specifically a minimum artificer level, you can't learn them until you are at least that level, unless the infusion description says otherwise. You can't learn the infusion more than once. Boots of the Winding Path, 4th level minimum. A pair of boots requires attunement. While wearing these boots, the creature can teleport up to 15 feet as a bonus action to an unoccupied space they can see. The creature must occupy that space at some point during the creature's turn. So this is during the creature's current turn. Okay, so this is very good if you want to get in, stab, and get out. Very, very handy for that reason. Very handy. I can see a lot of uses for this, specifically on rogues. Very, very nice. Enhanced defense, suit of armor or shield, being able to grant a +1 bonus, and then +2 if you are above 12th level. Very, very nice. Pretty standard. Enhanced weapon, same thing, but for weapons, acts as a +1 weapon. You cannot, by the way, you have to use these on mundane items. You can't use them on magical, already pre-existing magical items. Many-handed pouch. Now, this is probably my favorite item that I've seen them make that isn't already like a replicatable magic item, which we see over here. The infusion pouches all share one interdimensional space of the same capacity as a single pouch. Thus, reaching into any of the pouches allows access of the same storage space. Pouches operates as long as they're within 100 miles. So, never further than the party's going to be within themselves of another one of the pouches. The pouch is otherwise empty and won't accept any contents. If the infusion ends, items stored in the shared space moves into one of the pouches determined at random, and the rest of the pouches become empty. I love this. I love this. Being able to shift stuff to different locations is fantastic. I'm a lover of magic, and the illusion of moving one object to another object from one side of you to the other side of you is wonderful. This is a means of actually doing it. I love this. I love this item. I would use this in every campaign that I ever played an Artificer in. I love this. This is amazing. I love this. Radiant Weapon, 8th level. Simple or martial weapon, again, requires attunement. This magical weapon grants a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls, so it's a +1 weapon to start. Already pretty good. While holding it, the wielder can take a bonus action to cast it to shed bright light in 30-foot radius and dim light an additional 30. The wielder can extinguish the light as a bonus action, so it's basically burns like a lantern. Very nice. As a reaction, Immediately after being hit by a melee attack, the wielder can cause the attacker to become blinded until the end of the attacker's next turn, unless the attacker succeeds on a Constitution saving throw against the spell DC. So, your DC. Once you use this reaction, it can't be used again until the wielder finishes a short or long rest. Pretty good. I like revenge mechanics. Again, this would be a very good paladin weapon, a very good fighter weapon, anything like that. Radiant implies paladin, but other martial characters could use this too. Replicate magic item. See below. So, of course, using infusions, you can replicate particular magic items. You learn this infusion multiple times. Each time you do so, you choose a different magic item that you can make with it. Picking from the replicatable magic item table below. If the table has a level title, you must be of at least that level in order to be able to choose it. In the table, an item's entry tells you whether the item requires attunement. See item description in the Dungeon Master's Guide for the information beyond that. It's basically a bunch of magical items. It is more or less the Wondrous Invention from the previous version of the Artificer. This is basically the replacement of that, allowing you to build actual magical items, but they have temporary magic in them. I like this ability. It lets you, if you find that, +1, this is good if like certain things like +1 weapons or certain or those boots, for example, are not particularly handy. Being able to replicate certain magical items such as the Bag of Holding, Goggles of the Night, Sending Stones, Lantern of Revealing, Wand of Magical Detection, not secrets. All very, very handy weapons. Cap of Water Breathing, also very nice to have. At 12th level, Boots of Elvenkind, Winterlands, Braces of Archery. There's some pretty good items that you can just kind of make here. Medallion of Thoughts. Hat Disguise is very nice. Gauntlets of Ogre Power. Ring of Jumping. Pipes of the Sewers. There's some very, very nice items in here. And then, of course, at the very end, 16th level items. Horn of Blasting. Ring of various things. Cloak of the Bat. Braces of Defense. Belt of Hill Giant Strength. Who's going to argue with being able to create a belt at 16th level that gives you 21 strength? What fighter isn't going to want that? All right. In addition, Resilient Armor, much like the Radiant weapon. While wearing this armor, the creature has resistance to one of the following damage types, which you choose when you infuse the item, which is, of course, your typical Acid, Cold, Fire, Force, Lightning, Necrotic, Poison, Psychic, Radiant, or Thunder. Note that Force and Psychic are in here. Big deal. A means of gaining resilience to force or psychic damage. Very, very, very good. Oh, if you don't have any magical armor, this is a thing to take. Force and psychic are not common damage types, no, but being resilient to them is amazing. Giving this to your barbarian if he has mediocre constitution and armor would just for whatever reason be better, give this to him. Oh my goodness. Immune or resilient to every type of damage. Cannot argue with that. Returning weapon. Magic weapon grants a +1 bonus to the attack, the damage rolls made with it, and returns it to the wielder's hand immediately after it is used to make a range attack. You want that dagger on a rope? This is basically how you do it. Level restrictions. So you can do this right away. Give this to your rogue. Dagger. Just keep throwing them. All right. New spell. So this is, of course, the one spell that the Artificer gained, which is Arcane Weapon, which is super, super important. It is a bonus action, concentration up to 1 hour, verbal, somatic, and is only being able to be cast on yourself. But, as always, you can channel arcane energy into one simple or martial weapon that you are holding and choose one damage type, acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, or thunder. Until the spell ends, you deal an extra d6 of damage of that chosen type to any target you hit with that weapon. If the weapon isn't magical, it becomes magical for the spell's duration. As a bonus action, you can change the damage type chosen from the above weapons. When you cast a spell using a 3rd level spell slot or higher, you can maintain concentration on the spell up to 8 hours. That is awesome. Being able to have a dungeon long, or a day long, I should say, a standard adventuring day long plus 1d6 damage to your heavy crossbow, for example. Very nice. And that is the Artificer that they have released this year. I am excited. There is a lot of design space for the archetypes, creating new archetypes. I can think of like 6 already, between being able to take calligraphy skills and being able to create scrolls, being able to take something related to golemancing, be able to make a small army of some kind, maybe a means of creating a summoner of sorts. Wizard, maybe. Just those 2 alone are really, really cool ideas. I love what they can do. I'm really hoping they come up with a scroll-based one. I want scrolls. I love scrolls. Scrolls were my go-to when I played Artificers. I love scrolls. This class looks absolutely phenomenal. It looks really fun to play. I'm excited. I cannot wait to crack this out. And, oh man, this is going to be a good time. So that's just about the end of this video. As always, thanks for watching. Do put something in the Troll's Nest. Maybe your own opinion. What do you like about this class? What other ideas you think that they could go with? Even within what they already have here, some alterations, maybe some minor changes, tweaks. So do put your opinions in the Troll's Nest underneath this video. And until next time, guys, have a good day.